Pope Francis is back in Rome following his trip to Luxembourg and Belgium. Before departing Brussels, the Holy Father urged all members of the Church to speak out against clergy sexual abuse and to find the voice of the Spirit speaking in the victims. During Mass before 40,000 people in Brussels, the Holy Father reminded the faithful that the community of believers is not a select group of privileged few. Instead, it is a family of those who are saved. It was the final main event of a trip that drew plenty of attention. And joining us now from Rome is Andrea Gagliarducci, EWTN Vatican Analyst. Andrea, always good to see you. So can you tell us more about the Mass and the Pope's words about the scandal of clergy sexual abuse?
Well, you know that the Pope added a series of off-script remarks about the sex abuse scandal. We know that in Belgium, the sex abuse scandal was a huge issue. There is also a bishop, Van Geluwe, that has been recently laicized because guilty of abuse. The bishops had 2 commissions. And actually, the Pope was already preparing a meeting with the survivors that happened on the Friday night. But while he was meeting with the authorities of Belgium first time, there was a very, very strong speech from the Prime Minister of Belgium, and then also a mention on the abuse cases by the King of Belgium. And so the Pope already, in the speech with the authorities, he added these remarks that became a sort of leitmotif for the trip, that is about that the abuses must not be covered up, that the Pope will always look for the guilt, and that, you know, the Church had to apologize because of the abuse. And this has been the leitmotif of the trip. It came back during the Mass, the final Mass. It came back also in the in-flight press conference.
And overall, now that Pope Francis has returned from Belgium and Luxembourg, what are some of the highlights of the Apostolic Journey?
Well, I would say one of the biggest highlights is the veneration of Pope Francis of the tomb of King Bedwin in Belgium. It's a big issue because King Bedwin was the king who, in 1990, self-suspended not to ratify and sign the law on abortion. And the Pope called all the Belgian people to look after the example of Bedwin, and already announced that he's going to open the beatification cause of the king, which was a huge thing for Belgium. In Luxembourg, it was pretty interesting, the meeting with the authorities, because the Pope proposed Luxembourg and Europe as a model for peace.
And Andrea, as he typically does, the Pope spoke to the media on the return flight to Rome. It's been getting a lot of attention, too. Tell us what the Holy Father had to say.
Well, there were a series of topics. I already mentioned the topic of the abuse and the Pope that said that we have to be ashamed of the cover-up. I already mentioned King Bedwin and his stance on abortion. But there was also an issue with the Louvain University. The Pope mostly went to Belgium to celebrate the 600th anniversary of the Louvain University, that is a Catholic university in Belgium, but now very well known for the progressive stances. And this university protested after the Pope's speech in the French part. The university split into a Dutch and a French part, in Flemish and French part. And there was a statement that said that the university disagreed with Pope Francis' view on the role of the woman in the Church, because he presented the woman just like a mother and a generational bearer and so on and on. But the Pope actually reacted very strongly, also inferring that there was a sort of stubbornness or, let's say close-mindedness in the statement, because he said he always valued women, but the woman need not to be machized. Let's say that it's used a strange word in Italian, and in general he said that the Marian ministry is more important in his view than Petrine ministry, and whoever who does not recognize it, he doesn't see the Church, and the Church is always woman. So despite the ministry, and the Petrine ministry said is functional, is administrative somehow, Mary is more important in his view.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for this report. Always appreciate it. Andrea Gagliarducci, EWTN Vatican Analyst. Thank you again.